Before we talk about the playoffs, let's take a breath, slow down, look back. What were the biggest bright spots of 2010?
Well, it immediately would have to be the improved offensive play of Tamika. I mean, it was wonderful to see her see the results of all that extra work. You always tell players, you have to do more on the outside of practice. You have to spend more time. You have to invest in your shot. You have to invest in your three-point shot. You just have to. It's repetition. It's volume. It's quantity. And so she's done that. And to see her play at that high level, to see her shoot so much better than she's ever shot before was great. I think that was a huge bright spot for us. I think her shooting went up from 14 or 15 points in 09 now to 18 or 19 in 2010. So that was a huge plus. I thought it was another plus for us was the ability, even though we didn't always play our very best, we still managed to be fighting at the very end for the championship in the East. We saw injuries, we saw a change of personnel with Murphy leaving and Zealous coming in, and yet we still were able to find a way to put ourselves in a position to have a chance to win a championship. So I always consider that a bright spot. We continued to defend at a high level. So I thought there were some really good things. I do think, though, one thing that sticks out in my mind when you're talking about bright spots, this is not necessarily bright, but we are not a consistently good rebounding team. And sometimes that eventually just comes back to bite you in the butt. And I thought that did this year. If you look back at the games we lost that we could have won or should have won, that old rebounding bug sticks out.
Okay. There's a highlight and a low light. Now let's jump into the playoffs. We hit a red hot New York team. You got a tight 3-game series. It goes to the wire. Obviously, they've got Cappy. What were the keys to that series?
Well, of course, Cappy's a key. But I think that the difference in the New York team this year and in past years is that even though they had a tremendous offensive player in Cappy, who also had a great defensive year, it was interesting to see her move from Phoenix and come to New York and not only assert herself as a great offensive player, but I believe she was first team all defense. And so that probably goes back to the values of that particular team. New York really valued defense. But you also had a balance there. You had McCarville and you had Taj McWilliams and you had Nicole Powell, that were all invested in that team. And there was just a sense of urgency, and perhaps it came from Ann Donovan, knowing she was only going to be there 1 year and then going on to Seton Hall. But that team played at a very high level, and they got better every game, and they had tremendous confidence going into the end of the season. I think they, was there one time they'd won 10, 12, an awful lot of games there. So everyone knew that they were going to be a tough challenge, and then they were. It was tough to go up there and beat them, but then we were able to come back here and beat them here. And I still say that last game we played in the third game of the playoff series, had the officials stepped up and made the call, we would have won that game, and we would have been playing Atlanta in the finals. But you know how those refs are. You can't count on them.
You're referring obviously to a pair of drives to the bucket by Catchings in the final seconds. Obviously, we did not get the call, and that's how the game ended. Is there anything else that you can imagine on the Fever end of things? Had we done anything differently, might it have swayed the series?
Well, I thought we needed to rebound better. I thought once again, when you look at that series, had we rebounded just a little bit better in every game, had each one of our players gotten one more rebound, I don't think it would have gone to 3 games. And again, if I have to put my finger on one area that I think has to improve if we want to do the things that we really want to do, it has to be improving our rebounding, or it has to be bringing in someone else on our team, adding to our team a player that values rebounding at a tremendously high level. And I've learned through the years that some players just, it comes with you. You're born with that gene, like I love to rebound, and some players aren't, and they have to really work at it and think of it. And I think we could use one more player that, just considers themselves a tremendous rebounder, and I think that would be a great help to our team.
You pretty much just answered my final question, but I'll ask you again. Is there any other specific needs besides rebounding that you might identify for 2011?
Well, again, I think it's finding a way to make sure that every night for 40 minutes we have 110% effort, a tremendous amount of energy, because we're an energy team. We're an energy team on defense. We want to be an up-tempo, attacking, running energy team on offense. And we've got to find a way to make sure we've got that type of intensity, that type of focus, that's how we will play. And it's got to be all 8, 9 of the players that are going to play. And so we need to, because we had that in 09. That was one of the things I thought that carried us all the way to the finals in the final game. And it may be that next year, with the season starting later, everybody back in training camp, you know, the older players that are going to be overseas are going to have a break. You know, they're not going to play year-round like they did this past year. Tammy Sutton-Brown is taking the foreign season off, which is wonderful news. It's some of the best news I've ever heard, that she's opted not to go to Turkey. She's been going overseas and going playing year-round for, 12 years. She's resting in this off-season. Catchings, if she goes, won't go till after Christmas. You know, so we're in a situation where they'll come back. They'll have a couple of weeks before we start training camp. And I think that gives us a chance to, you know, to rest, to get our legs back, and to be the type energy team that we want to be.
Great. Coach Dunn, enjoy your quote-unquote off-season. Hope you enjoy your cooking and reading and all that you do at your home in Tennessee, and we wish you luck and look forward to having you back in 11.
Well, thank you. I'll be checking in off and on. I love, you know, when you and I do little what's going on with the Fever. I'm looking forward to the college season starting up. I know next week, I believe they all start their the regular practices, and I'm looking forward to watching a lot of the games. I think it's going to be a great collegiate season. It's going to be interesting to see how Connecticut's going to be without Tina Charles, because she obviously had a huge impact on our league this year as the Rookie of the Year. And I'm curious how my beloved Lady Vols and the Tennessee Volunteers are going to do, especially with my old sidekick Mickey DeMoss back at Tennessee. So I'm looking forward to, even though they don't play during the regular season, I'm picking Tennessee and Connecticut in the finals.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Would you like to remind the folks where those finals will take place next year?
Those finals will actually be right here in this building that I'm sitting in, Conseco Fieldhouse. In the city of Indianapolis is hosting the women's Final Four, and it's just a wonderful venue for our game. I'm excited about everybody coming into town for the WBCA convention, and us hosting, you know, the NCAA Final Four right here. It's a great place for it. Beautiful facility. I'm expecting everybody to be here.
Outstanding. Coach Dunn, thanks very much.
You're very welcome.